Have you ever felt the struggle of balancing your feminine and masculine energies in your personal or professional life? Or maybe you're just even curious about what these energies are. This is going to be a journey many of us face navigating through the societal expectations of our own authentic selves. The challenges are real, finding harmony between our different archetypes, avoiding burnout while striving for success, and embracing all aspects of our very own beings. Today we're joined by the very special and amazing Lezly Kaye, a transformational coach and advocate for feminine empowerment. With her own journey of balancing these energies, Lezly brings a unique perspective and practical insights for our discussions. Throughout this episode, we'll explore Lezly's personal experiences of the power of embracing feminine energy and the impact of finding harmony in our lives. By the end, you'll walk away with a deeper understanding of how to balance your own energies, fostering authentic connections and embracing all aspects of yourself. Welcome aboard The Nichole Show with host Nichole Hamilton. Our task is to educate, empower, and change lives. Join us for stories of resilience and rebirth, honest talks that inspire and challenge you. Are you ready to make a move? It begins now. Welcome back, guys, to the beautiful space where we love to dive deep on any topics that are relevant to us and in hopes that it shares and grants you a permission slip to be your most authentic selves. And today on The Nichole Show, we have Lezly Kaye. She is joining me all the way from Western Australia. So for those who don't know, like Australia, it's the biggest state on the western side. And Lezly Kaye, we met through these coaching programs and just, very kindred spirits, mama bears, boss babes. And it's beautiful to have you on the show. It is our second time recording it, but that's another thing. So we're going to go deep and see where it takes us. So number one, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm so excited to see where this conversation wants to weave.
I love that. Let's use some intuition today on that, because we do both love being in flow and dropping into our feminine. How do you do that? How do you tap into your intuition and your feminine flow? Because that might be a beautiful topic to share to some of our other mama bears and females out there.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Do you know what? It really depends how much space I have, as to, I guess, what tools I pull from. I've sort of, I don't want to say programmed because we're so programmable as humans, but every time I get in my car, I take 3 breaths into my womb all the way down into my lower belly. And I use that as a reset point to just I'm in my car so often. I drop my son at school. I go to Pilates. So I have this almost like automatic reset throughout the day where I just subconsciously, every time I get in my car before I start it, I just stop and I breathe deeply 3 times. And that's sort of a circuit breaker. And for me, femininity is just the getting back in the body. It's out of the mind. It's actually feeling what's in my body in any moment and being in that place. And then if I have more space, I actually just do womb breathing or cervix breathing. And then I bring movement to that. So again, being in our body is what it, for me, is what it means to be in our feminine essence. It's out of the logical, the mind, the decisions, and really just being fully present in what's alive in my body. So I'll do some womb cervix breath and rock my hips as I'm breathing to really start to move my sacral energy through my body. And really just sort of get that aliveness moving throughout my body again.
I love that. And for those that this is all kind of new and you're like, what do you mean womb breathing and sacral energy? I'd love for you to explain like how you visualize going into your womb. Like, how do you breathe? Like, if I didn't know, I know what you're talking about, but how do you breathe into your womb?
Yeah, so the cervix is the gateway to the womb. So if you don't know where the cervix is, if you sort of put 2 fingers underneath your belly button and think all the way in though, like in and up inside your yoni or vagina or pussy, whatever you want to call it. And it's kind of the deepest place inside of that part of you. And so when I'm guiding women through it, I just say, close down your eyes, breathe into your cervix, and then breathe as if you're breathing 2 fingers below the belly button on the inside. And then we start by breathing there. And then really the cervix is a gateway to the womb. So in that space behind the cervix is your womb. And so really breathing in and down and expanding the lower part of your belly. Yeah. And then just visualizing breathing to that lower belly, womb, cervix area.
I love that we just dropped straight into that because, breathing and, just activating your body is something that I learned, I guess, later in my modalities. A lot of the stuff that I learned was talk therapy, energetics, NLP, a lot of logistics around the personal development philosophies. But where I get my most, fulfilling experiences is in the body somatics and activating that and dropping back in. And so for me, I'm a big smell person, and like I just lit it before we started, Paleo Santo for me, and I have it here, travel with it. I take it to places that I'm, working from, and I will literally have a lighter and I will share that. And that smell drops me, it grounds me in. I am taking those breaths with it, calming and taking the negative energies out of my space. And for me, it helps me drop straight in. So if you need an extra resource, if like breathing to your womb does not feel authentic or right for you, you can do something like that. You can have an external smell or use an oil. But when you're taking those breaths, you're still activating your body and just dropping in. Like the nervous system responds so well.
Truly.
So I love that. I love that. Yeah. And I'd love to dive in a little bit because I know that you and I chatted before this and we're going on a bit of a similar journey in regard to using our feminine energy like as our superpower and dropping into that. And I'd really love to talk about that. I mean, maybe some people don't even know like masculine and feminine energies, but for my interpretation of it is that, our masculine, and for those that don't know, is our right side, our feminine is our left, and your masculine is that we all have them. Every single person has masculine and feminine energetics. And, your masculine is that kind of more domineering, very strong, it's confident, it's quick decision making, it's quite, active. And the feminine is on the softer side. It's that receivership side. It's in the flow. It's in the creation. It's in the nurturing, in the loving kind of flow. And there's reasons and beliefs all, behind that. But I always thought to achieve in business and to get where I needed to go and to be protected and to provide for my family, I had to be in my masculine. I had to be my rah, go. And it was just a second gear shift. Like it was so natural for me in anything I've ever achieved. If I was going to do it, it came from that right driven side. And I reached burnout this year. Like I really did. And it was like a massive calling, being like, you've known it all along. You love being in your feminine. You love playing in that realm. Why am I thinking? Why am I feeling? Why do I think that she's weaker or not as good or can't achieve in that space? And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. And so I've spent a lot of time in the energetics and magic and rituals and play this last few months. And I've noticed such a shift in my behavior, my contentment, my love, my fulfillment, because innately my core energy is feminine. And so by playing with her, it's not that I can't shift, but by really being in her more, I've seen such a shift in my business, my relationships, and all different things. And I'd love to know your similar story so people out there can like play with both their sides and understand why we can get to anxiety or burnout or whatever else.
Yeah, I love this question. We have both and we need both. I want to say for me, masculine is more penetrative and feminine is more receptive. And, I think as women in business, we're often taught or shown or guided that, to have a successful business, we need to have drive and direction and discipline. We do, and it causes burnout in women. And so we do need to have a strong masculine container. And the reason we need a strong masculine container is to create safety for our feminine to flourish. So the way that we create a strong masculine container is things like structure. It's things like strategy. And then we hand over to our feminine to be in devotion to our service. So when you start to move with devotion versus discipline, the energy behind that is like, I'm going to pour into myself to pour into my vision, my purpose, what I'm here for. And so you're pouring into yourself, so you're overflowing and pouring into your service. You're devoted to the women that you're here to serve. You're devoted to the path that's laid out in front of you. Versus, I have to, or I'm going to push through, or I'm going to penetrate my way to where I see where I'm going. But if we don't have the safety of our masculine container, we can get into overwhelm. We can get into feminine collapse. So we're not actually taking the action that we need to move forward into the places that we need to go, or we don't have the discernment to make big decisions. So it's not a this or that. And it's, for me, and what was true for me is I sort of pendulum swung. I built big businesses, like multi-million-dollar businesses, on the back of my masculine. It was like penetrative drive, direction. Like, I was ruthless as well. It was very, very masculine, very strong. And I reached burnout to a big degree. I literally closed a multi-million-dollar business and left my now ex-husband because I had nothing left in me. I'd been fighting for, at that stage, 34 years of my life.
Yeah.
Burnout for me was like a whole year thing. But I pendulum swung in that year into what I would say is feminine collapse, where I then started to shame my masculine. I then started to shame the parts of me that had pushed me too hard. I almost started to resent my masculine container, or those masculine qualities inside of me, because they'd caused me so much pain. And so for me, it was a journey of actually coming back into internal harmony. And this is what Foundations of Grace, the work that I do, was this place of harmony inside of my own ecosystem, inside of my own energetics, inside of my own body, as to, I don't need to choose this or that. I don't need to say that my feminine's better than my masculine. I don't need to compare my devotion to my direction there's no right or wrong inside of my system. There just is. And I can harness and dance between those energies, like you were saying, to be like, my core driver is devotion. When I don't feel like doing shit, which we all have days where we don't feel like doing shit, my devotion pulls me into service. I want to say there's this essence of, if I got out of my own way, if I allowed God's truth, source truth, whatever you want to call it, to pour through me in the way that I show up every day, what does that look like? Because what I've also found in my feminine core, in my feminine wounding as well, which is layers that we're all working through, is sometimes I'm operating from my little girl versus my woman. And my little girl just wants to play. My little girl just wants to lay about and relax, and so much of me, why can't I just lay naked and eat fruit all day? Come on.
Yeah, correct. Wow.
So there's this, for me, it's like, I want to say a harmony that we can find in knowing what we need to create safety for that little girl. Our feminine has many archetypes, like literally from the little girl to the wise woman.
Yeah.
And the masculine frame, the container that holds all of our expression, we need to understand what parts of that we need to have harmony, like what structure we need, I almost want to say, well, not rules. I don't like rigidity, but sometimes we need containment as women. Like, oftentimes, if you think about femininity, and if you do know this work, but in a lot of teachings, it's like the feminine seeks containment. And so it's the masculine's job, our internal masculine first, to contain the feminine and to provide the safety and the guidance for where she's going to go, so she can pour from her oracle. Yes, for me, it's this dance, this internal dance of always finding harmony. What's the middle road? What's the path of allowing? And I think about being in a relationship, it's like, what's the path that's going to allow my feminine to feel like she has space to pour from her oracle in devotion? And what's going to allow my masculine to feel like this honor and this pride and this he wants to be our hero. This internal part of us wants to be the hero and to help our feminine flourish. So what does he need as well to have harmony in that relationship?
Yeah, I love that. I can feel that in many aspects of what you're saying in business, in yourself, in your individual showing up, and then also in relationships. It's so beautiful to hear that and reflect that in such a beautiful, different way. You've blended many modalities and much wisdom into that. And so I'd love to just unpack it a little, or my interpretation on it. But so for me, I've been through that part of where I've like hidden certain parts of myself, and hence this Nichole show, to show the mask behind it, because of fear of judgment, or my little girl feels broken or unseen, or my sexy siren, I'm not wanting to put her out there because of, again, fear of judgment, or I'm the kids coach, or I'm a mother now, I'm not meant to be seen like that. And so all of those parts, now that I'm continually working on every part of me, all my, like you said, archetypes of my femininity and my masculine, I feel like I've, blended those so that I'm feeling really good. But that's not just also what I've cultivated within my own versions of myself. It's also what I'm calling in my externals. And I think it's really, really important to have other humans that model these behaviors in different aspects of my life. I have a very diverse life, and I have beautiful coaches like you that I can unpack with and understand me. And then I have beautiful, safe men in my world. I have a wife. So having beautiful men in my life does make me feel safe and protected. And I need that energy still to be truly in my essence. And then I have beautiful, kids in my world that I get to play with and nurture. And then I have, my pole girls that I get to be sexy with. So in my external, within my business, within my friendships, within my life, like having all those parts seen, felt, and heard and reciprocated is also really, really important. And that helps me balance. Whereas if I'm denying any part of those, whether it's my friendships or my relationship or whatever else, or my own kids or whatever, then the wheels fall off energetically for me. And then every part of my life doesn't function as well. And it's realizing that, like, it's, remembering and realizing, like, I can be boss babying it in business and have all the, finances in the bank, but does that necessarily mean my relationship's going good, or I've got great friends or people to experience it with? Probably not. And so, yeah, by really spending some time unpacking all of these things, and throughout this, good podcast, I'm slowly being able to talk about every aspect. And I think that so many people don't realize that the root of their pain or their anxiety or overwhelm or whatever else is surely coming back into the things that they are not expressing within themselves, that they are not allowing to come up, that they're denying, that they're pushing down. There's all parts. And beautifully in this world, I hope that, people that are listening to this are like-minded souls that will connect on you with that part, that will love it in any way, and it's totally welcome to be expressed. It's just finding the confidence and the courage and the discernment to be able to. So yeah, I thank you for helping us, open those conversations with people. There's so many parts that we hide. So on that, what is the hardest part of you? One of either your archetypes or your little what is the hardest part for you to have been able to share with others or us or whoever?
I want to say not anymore, but originally, it was my wild woman. It was my uncaged, unbridled, unperfect. So for your listeners that don't know me, my mum's a drug addict. So for a very long time, I wore the good girl archetype with the badge. I got the good grades. I like, even to the point where I would constantly wear headbands because I didn't ever want, like, literally like a hair out of place. And if there was a hair out of place, I had to wear a headband. So it like had some, I want to say, like, uniformity to it. And my first ever embodiment retreat, when I was very new to this work and very new to this world, we journeyed archetypes. And one of those archetypes was the wild woman. And in that process of, like, experiencing her crazy, experiencing the freedom in that archetype, I realized that I was rejecting so much of myself because I was rejecting the parts of myself that reminded me of my mother.
Mm.
Rejecting my mother so much because, you know, she was crazy and she was a drug addict and she caused me a lot of pain in my childhood. Yeah, so that was probably the hardest part of me to love and accept, but that really did unlock then this capacity to find and meet all parts of myself. And I say to people that are like seeking liberation, or some form of freedom, or, you know, there's almost like this internal compass that's seeking something. And I often relate it to like finding the ugliest, unlovable parts of yourself
Mm.
and loving them wholeheartedly. Like, not just saying that you love them, but genuinely being like, I fucking love you,
Yeah.
even when I think you're a monster.
Yeah.
And finding those parts of me and being like, wow, I used to think you were a monster and now I can just witness the divinity in your entire existence. It really creates a level of inner peace. Like there's not so much turmoil in your inner landscape because there's no parts of you that you're trying to reject or push out. In fact, my journey is very much like, oh, wow, this is a part that I haven't seen before. Like, let me get to know you more. Let me understand you more. Let me feel the love that you're craving because, you know, I want to say trauma always seeks resolution, and often the resolution that it's trying to seek is the love that it felt like it didn't receive when this imprint happened. And I mean big T and little t trauma as well. There's always a resolution that it's trying to find in your subconscious. And if we can bring it that resolution, which is often unconditional love, then it kind of stops like acting out. It kind of stops like fucking with your internal dialogue because it's like I got the thing that I wanted. I don't need to throw a tantrum or
Yeah,
create.
self-sabotage. I don't need to do that shit anymore. I love this. You are speaking my language. Is it okay if I share my
Please.
part that I was denying? So even though I speak very openly about my addiction, my drug addiction, I was still really harboring, and she came up in other addictions as well. It wasn't just ice. She came through and like I quietened her here and quietened her there. And it wasn't until I really realized how fucking clever and how beautiful and how resilient my addiction part of me is, and that really she was just trying to keep me safe. Like I was so unhappy, I was masking in those times. It wasn't, you know, she's fucking conniving and clever and you know, a great liar, and she's so fucking resilient and she's sneaky and tough. And I was like, fuck yeah, that, you know, addict, she's not to be shamed or guilted. Her whole purpose was to keep me safe in that time. She wasn't out there to, you know, fuck my world up. She was just trying to help me emotionally. And when she came out time and time again, then in drinking in different spaces, it was because she was trying to remind me that I was hiding these other archetypes and parts. And now that I don't, now that I've had such a beautiful conversation with my wife about all parts of me and my other friends and different things, it's not even there. Like she's there and you know, to remind me, but she doesn't want to come out and, you know, drink. Like I just don't. And, you know, kicked drug addiction a long time ago. I'm not eating badly. Like there's just that part of me is like, you've listened to me. Like it's okay. And loved her and not gone, okay, bottom, you know, paper bag, bottom shelf, we don't talk about you anymore. No, she's fucking beautiful. And coming to that point is like that resolution, like you said, has happened for me in that part. And yeah, I firmly believe when we have this self-saboteur or whatever else is coming up, it's because not only are you not loving that part of yourself, but there's other parts of you that you are not expressing. You know, we're deeply scared of saying to our partners or our closest people, like whether we've got depression or anxiety or desires that we're not expressing or traumas that we haven't spoken about, all of those things. We think we're okay. No, I'm all good. I'm fine. It's a beautiful day. No, you're not. Like you really do. Like once you start unpacking all those little things, the harmony and the peace does come. And so I think that this work is, it's really transformative in our body's nervous systems, in our souls, in our place. Because when we can come from that place of service, it's so much easier. There's no resistance. There's no resistance. So yeah. So I love my addict part now.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to seek resolution anymore. Like
correct.
All parts of us are just seeking love. And we've actually just been taught to do it in unskillful ways. whether that is through addiction, whether that is through abuse, whether that is through harming others. You know, if you actually look at a lot of the core motivation behind it, there's just a desire to be loved and accepted. And I say this often to people, is like, if we got like a cut on our hand, for example, we don't cut off our hand. No, we nurture it. We love it. We help heal this part of us so it comes back into wholeness. And often, though, when we're healing, we're like, oh, I'm going to chop this part of me off. Like, this part's unlovable. Let's hide it. There's no resolution in chopping ourselves into bits and pushing parts of us away. We like, the integration occurs when we're like, I see you and I love you in all of your ugliness, in all of your mess, in all of the potentially horrible things that you've done. I can find love and forgiveness for you here.
Does that go for other people as well, externals?
Yeah, I want to say, in fact, I was having a conversation earlier. It's like, even in the external stuff, I'm a strong believer, and I know this can be triggering for people, but it is a reflection of something that's happening inside of us. Because if we can't find the resolution in ourselves, we seek the resolution outside of ourselves. So if we can find a through line to love and forgiveness for people that have done wrong by us in some way or are causing us pain in some way, we can often do that by finding the part of us that it's pulling on, the part of us that like, people can only trigger us if there's something that they're hooking into in our subconscious. Otherwise, we don't react in any way, shape, or form.
It doesn't bother us.
Truly. So we've got to find that root cause, that imprint, that thought or decision or process that we've installed in our psyche, and heal there. Because then we will stop attracting people that are continuing to reflect this back to us. And the charge that potentially this person still has on us or with us starts to leave our system, because it's not hooking into old wounds anymore. It becomes free in our system, essentially.
Yeah, I love this. And yeah, you're right. It can be triggering for some people, and it is a process. And it is a suggestion. It's never an ultimate, but, coming to that place of love and forgiveness is not for necessarily for their healing. It's for ours, but I really do. I don't know when Abs will be on. I keep asking her. I really want to go into infidelity and into heartbreak and talk about that, because when we fully allow somebody and love them anyway for their whatever, for their hurt, for their betrayals, for their whatever, when you fully give somebody unconditional love, not just yourself, I'm talking about now externals, when you allow that, and we do it innately, most of us parents, to our children, but when you do it to another person, another human in your world, whether it's your friends or family or partners, allowing that unconditional love allows them to heal. And that's the big thing. And it doesn't mean you don't have to have boundaries. I'm not saying you would, you could say, I'm going to love you anyway, but my boundary is this now. And you may or may not have them in your lives. But that total, I'm still going to love you, that, like, I still have unconditional love for my ex-husband. And I tell him all the time, and it is allowing his healing and our relationship to continue to grow. And, the same with me and Abs. I really want to go deep into this one, but yeah, just on the tip of it, the love and forgiveness, and not necessarily bailing on someone or judging them and, like you said, cutting them off. You may have boundaries, but but saying, hey, I love and forgive you, and if you can get to that place, allows them to take stack and go, I've shown you the worst of me, and it's okay. I can move through that, and I can, if I want to, choose to heal those parts of myself.
Yeah, I love this. There's a few things I want to touch on here. Boundaries 100%, because I want to say I love my son unconditionally. If he hit me, I wouldn't I love you, and I'm not going to receive pain from you.
Of course.
Yeah. So
boundary.
Yeah, right. So, like, my son can express himself in any way that he wants, but it doesn't mean I have to receive the pain on the other side of that. And I love him unconditionally. So yeah, I want to say, and I actually put a post up about this the other day. It's often not, I don't love you. It's that I love you, but I love myself more.
Yes.
And when we start to enter relationships with this thread of, we're not self-sacrificing, we're not abandoning, we understand what our boundaries are. And to touch on this point about the deepening that you found with Abs on the other side of and I don't fully know what happened, but I'm going to read between the lines with what you just shared there. I want to say what we're actually avoiding is a deepening of intimacy because we're already feeling pain.
Yeah.
And so when we can realize that bad behavior, as we want to label it, is actually just an unskilled way to seek more love.
Correct.
And we can realize that, you know, like on the other side of the vulnerability of that pain, on the other side of the deepening of, I did this actually because I wasn't feeling loved, it doesn't excuse anyone's behavior. I want to say there's like with my son, like I love him unconditionally and I won't let him hurt me.
Of course.
I'm not available for it. And yeah, I want to say I can feel the essence of what you're saying. And it's so easy for people to say, you've hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
By withdrawing my love from you, because at the core of it, what each party is actually seeking is more love in one way or another.
Yeah.
And if we can lean fully in and go, okay, what would love do without my preference? If I can see how love has acted out in this case, or we've acted out in the premise of love in this case, if I allowed love to weave through this connection again, or weave through this connection right now without my preference, and I could find myself in the vulnerability of the truth. Because also what I feel is often happening in these circumstances is there's truth that's being suppressed and it's seeking resolution through acting out.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
yeah, and you know, and I will go deeper into some more stuff about it, but you know, true heartbreak, and I have no preference to, you know, I do a lot of couples counseling and family counseling as well, to violence, to heartbreak, to infidelities, to all sorts. You know, I have no preference. There is no right or wrong when it comes to your own boundaries, what you will and won't receive in your well. I'm just using that as one example of deepening intimacy and love and compassion and vulnerability and helping somebody else by saying exactly that. Like, I see you, but I won't accept that. That's not okay in my world. That is my boundary, but I'm still going to love and forgive you. And, you know, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, you know, we do that with our children as well. You know, like I always say to Aurora, like, I'm not happy with you right now, but I still love you. And then she'll check on me, are you happy now? But, you know, you can have those boundaries and you know, and reiterate that at the core. But you're right, that the most of the time, behaviors, strategies, whatever's going on is a suppression of something and an acting out because they're not feeling, you know, that deep love and that connection that their inner child or whatever else is, you know, so seeking, or their trauma is seeking.
fully. And it's often because we've swallowed our nose one too many times. So where I see this in relationship is we're not taught to communicate. We're not taught to be able to hold each other's truths, really. And we fear the other person's truth in case it doesn't align with ourselves. So we often then suppress a lot of our truth and it comes out sideways. And so, yeah, my invitation for anyone listening is like, the more you can find your no is the more you can find your yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, really like deepening in this, like, it's okay to have, like, if your partner is a yes but you're a no, that's okay. Because if you suppress your no, it will come out sideways. And that might not be infidelity, but it might be like losing intimacy in relationship is often because one or the other has swallowed their nose one too many times. And the energy then can't flow through the connection. All eros is, or polarity, depending on how you want to describe it, is the constant flow of different poles of energy.
Yeah.
But if you're not letting the energy flow by saying yes or no, it stops. There becomes no intimacy because there's no flow of energy.
100%. And, you know, even in the time, so my whole thing, communicate, try it a different way, do it in, you know, multiple ways. But, you know, when we suppress and we don't tell our friends or partners the real things that are on our heart and our minds, like you said, it does. It comes out sideways. It comes out in behaviors or attitudes or breakdowns, breakups, whatever else, you know, meltdowns, because you haven't said it. And even if your partner may or may not like what you're about to say, what's on your heart, if you say it in a way of like, instead of just, you know, screaming it at the most inappropriate times, which we've all done, let's be real, but you know, hey, I've got something on my heart that I really need to share with you, and it's been coming up a while. Can you please just hold space and let me say it? You know, even when I know that comment, thought, behavior, whatever's happened, might hurt Abs, for instance. The deepening of our relationship when we unpack it and hold space for one another has literally got us to 10 years. And, it's so beautiful, and we're in this most amazing space, and we've had the most rockiest times too. But that, for honestly, both of us coming back to unconditional love, to continue to do the work and openly communicate everything, which is something we're definitely not taught, is what's, really, giving us that total fulfillment. And yeah, always be honest. It's the hardest thing, because it's just definitely not taught in society. We're taught to people please. We're taught it from schoolyard. Make friends, don't disrupt, fit in, compromise, And so these conversations are so important.
I want to say we don't speak our truth because we think we're going to lose love.
Correct.
But if we don't speak our truth, we're guaranteed to lose love. We either lose our self-love,
Correct,
because we lose respect for ourselves, because we're just literally people pleasing our way through a relationship because we're so fearful of our own truth, or we lose the love of the person we're trying to keep because sex, intimacy, whatever, leaves the relationship because you're not being in your truth. Like people that are married and this was me and my ex-husband. Knowing what I know now, I say this often, I don't know if I would have left my marriage because I blamed him for so much and I wanted him to take responsibility for so much. And I was asking him to meet me somewhere that I wasn't willing to meet myself. And for me, that was the biggest indication of it's not his responsibility to save him, or it's not our partner's responsibility to save us from the emotions that we're feeling or the pain that we're feeling. Yes, they can help us co-regulate. Yes, they can help us repattern maybe some abandonment wounds. But if we can't meet ourselves there first, if we can't be the ones to walk the path back to our own love and our own heart, we're asking them to rescue us, and that's codependency. That's not love.
100%. 100%. And I honestly feel like in some of the love and forgiveness that I did genuinely give in our relationship, especially at the very beginning, I honestly felt like I gave away my personal power, and that was my story and that was my truth. And then I realized that I fucking didn't. What I did was actually block my heart from hurt again. And so my foot was half out the door, and it was half out the door for a few years there. Because I just wanted to protect. Even though, in my core, I can understand people's beliefs and patterns and strategies and why they do the things they do, and offer them genuine love and forgiveness, I wasn't actually opening my heart to my own self and love and forgiveness. And some of the things that I was hiding deep in my heart and with my own beliefs, I was people pleasing and pushing away. I was like, oh, well, don't worry about that. We'll just work on this. And so now I feel like I've really come to a place, and it does take time, guys. If some of this stuff is a little deep for you, it does take fucking, Abs and I have been together 10 years now, and I'm 43, and I've had an 18-year relationship before that. Now I honestly feel it, and it's just crazy. At 43, I finally know who the real Nichole is. Well, I feel like I'm expressing her in all the ways, and so many different parts of me, and I'm really celebrating all of those, and I feel joy, and I feel compassion, I feel sexy, and I feel alive, and I feel honest, and there's so many things, and it just was not taught. I've been hiding it for so long, so many parts. And I fully ask people to look and express themselves, and you will find those places and communities and spaces that will love every single part of you.
I want to say I witnessed this even in friendships. I had a rupture in a friendship recently, and applying similar principles where it was, my mum's my abuser. I've never had a safe feminine relationship modeled to me. My grandmother, who then helped raise me, was a very cold and closed woman. So, my somatic imprint of friendship is unsafe. And so, I had a rupture with a friend recently, and what brought us back together was me actually, there's parts of me that I could feel were almost pushing before the rupture happened. She put words to it. And then there was so much of me that wanted to be like, yeah, you're right, this friendship's not going anywhere. But when I dropped a little deeper, I was like, no, actually, I can feel where I'm pushing away because we're about to get closer. And so what happens in relationship is conflict occurs, and it naturally occurs, and it's actually meant to, guys. You're actually meant to have conflict.
Yeah.
You're meant to have conflict because you're just readjusting the energetics and coming deeper into intimacy.
Yeah.
So we had like our first conflict, and I could feel every part of me that wanted to be like, cool, whatever, push away, easy. I don't need to deepen here. What I did was open my heart deeper and be like, I'm actually afraid because I don't know how to navigate this. I don't know how to love you in the ways that you're wanting to be loved. And I don't know how to move through what it is you're feeling because I'm not consciously aware of what's happening here. And she's an embodiment, so she could feel the undercurrent of what was happening. She could feel the energetics of what was happening. But it was in my like heart open, like literally like, I don't know how to be a good friend. I know how to be a good friend. I want to say I don't know how to like deepen here. I don't know how to to like deepen female connections. It's just so
Could teach you a
foreign.
trick or two.
Yeah, it's so foreign to my nervous system. And in that conversation, she originally came with I want to say it landed in my system. So not projecting on her. So it landed in my system as aggression. And what it really was both of us just seeking a resolution to love. She felt like I didn't love her. I felt like she didn't love me. And the more we arrived in the vulnerability of like, we're in this now moment, but our intention is to find more love and to deepen love and to find more truth. It's like another layer unlocked in our intimacy, and we both softened and were able to come closer.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So, so beautiful. And I love that. I've had those, beautiful ruptures and repairs with some really close friends of mine. And you're 100% right. When you can hold space and drop in and be like, okay, I feel you and I know what this is about, and have those conversations again, the hardest ones, like, calling your own shit, feeling what's going on, where your own triggers are or your own beliefs or behaviors, and then the other person's, but also having another person that can actually listen and hold space. If you do need to unpack or you don't know why you lost your shit or whatever, or the other person did, or however it is really, really important. But from this work, I've literally got the best friends, from finding others in the healing community and the coaching community, this world, the somatics, because they're consciously seeking those types of deeper, intimate friendships. And some of my other ones have fallen away, only for the fact that, again, had to put some boundaries up, because my people pleaser was in those friendships, or there was no deepening, or even after a rupture there was no repair or on the other person's side. So I'm definitely for boundaries. This space in the community of coaches and love, like 100%, being able to be heard and felt. You're always going to have rupture, because it is, you also want to show your darker sides, your fearful sides to that person to love. It's scary.
It is, especially
Love
if we
it.
haven't found and loved those parts of ourselves either.
Yeah, like if we haven't had really good girlfriends before, or we've always had, or maybe we haven't really had like a lot of friends, you wasn't the person at school or whatever. I remember in my 20s, because I'd had my ex-husband was my boyfriend from 16 in my 20s, and it was pretty sure it was before kids. It might have been just after Brody, I'm not sure, but it was early 20s for sure. And I was hanging around this group of friends from work, and I remember this one guy, I must have been people pleasing too much, and I was way before spirituality. He's like, Nichole, we just like you for you. And I really remembered that, because I'd never felt that before in any other friendship group or school or high school or after that. Like I was always, I guess, doing too much to be liked. And it just really dropped in, and I was like, at this place, in this workspace, I get to just be Nichole. I'm not the wife or the mother or the this or the that. I was just Nichole. And really, that was one of my first aha moments of, I'm okay to be me. Like just be me, and there will be people that genuinely like you.
Truly, always.
100%. So on the Nichole Show, before we wrap up, we've talked a lot, and I think we have covered a hell of a lot. Is there something that you want to challenge me on or ask me, or just even a drop in to wrap it up, Lezly? Because we've actually covered so much here today.
I feel we've covered so much, and I kind of challenged in a way that was very received by you anyway. The viewpoint on rupture and why it's there. but it just goes to show the type of woman that you are, that you can hold views and reflections and actually, I want to say, find the vein of truth in every interaction. So,
hey everyone, Nichole here, and I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I just want to take a quick moment to talk to you all. If you're finding value in our conversations and loving the raw, honest dialogues we're having here, I've got a small favor to ask. This podcast is a passion project for me, and there's nothing I love more than bringing these stories and insights to you. So if you haven't already, would you consider subscribing to our show and leaving a review? It's completely free and it doesn't take much time, but it really helps us in two big ways. It's getting the podcast in front of more listeners, which keeps our community growing. It helps us attract more amazing guests, which means we give you more value in the episodes we bring to you. Just hit that subscribe button, drop us a review, and let's keep these conversations flowing.
what was the hardest thing you learned about yourself in the interaction with the rupture that I'm guessing that there was in the relationship with you and Abby?
Yeah, I love that. So for those that don't know, and I've already asked Ab's permission on this, but Abby cheated on me years and years ago in a relationship, and we went through a lot of counseling and repair. And I've been had been a cheater in past relationships too, so I never judge. And if anybody is going through infidelities, please look up Esther Perel. She is one of the best relationship coaches on that. There's a book called The State of Affairs. It is literally amazing because it does go back into childhood and why you behave and seek the love and the patterns that you do. Anybody, and even if you haven't had an infidelity, go listen to it anyway. It's literally Esther Perel. It's amazing. But that was the hardest challenge, like for me, honestly, becoming like feeling heartbreak and then having to soften again and relearn. Because when I was a drug addict or when I did stupid shit or when I drank, I did that. I could fully put my hand up and go, okay, I fucked up. When somebody does something to you and you have no control and the only control is to soften and love, it really does feel like you're giving away your personal power. That was for me. And I was like, fuck, it took me a really long time to rebuild the confidence, the strength, my own integrity almost, to relearn who I was. Because knowing that, you literally have no control over anything. And one of my coaches said to me, because I was always like fearful of what if again, the what ifs, the heartbreak, the this, the that. And that was always sitting there, even though I was working on my stuff and being as deeply raw as I could. My coach said to me, just continue to work on yourself so that it doesn't matter what the universe throws at you. It doesn't matter what if, what person, what thing, what event, that you're strong enough to hold capacity and hold yourself through it. And I was like, oh my God. And it just, I don't know, it was just like stepping into a warm shower. It all made sense. It just washed over me. And I was like, I don't have to fight so hard. Just continue to do the work, continue to love myself and learn. And through that strength and capacity, I will be able to hold myself no matter what any other person does. And it just stopped me being on like that treadmill of like, I've got to push harder. I've got to go harder. I've got to, got to make sure that I'm super fit to cope with anything. Cause it's like, just, trust. Cause I had lost a little bit of trust, not just trust in myself, but trust in humanity. But then I regained that. Like I had to relearn, like I trust myself to be able to handle anything.
I love that.
So it's way harder than addiction.
Yes.
Way harder.
I want to say addiction's masking. We're actually coming into the epicenter of love. It's like obliterating yourself from the inside out. There's nowhere to hide from that place. So
it's like the most painful ayahuasca journey ever.
Fully.
Yeah. And is there anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up, my beautiful friend?
I feel really complete, unless there's a question you'd like to ask me.
No, I feel great. I would love to dive in again and we'll have you on the show maybe.
Yeah, I would love that.
Later on. But it's been beautiful to have you. Thank you so, so much. And yeah, Lezly Kaye, all her details and her program and everything will be underneath this. And again, please like, subscribe, ask any questions, because if there's other people that you've heard on the podcast or Lezly specifically, and we want to go more into what we touched on, because that is our interpretation of it in a very short nutshell of a time frame, we'd love to go deeper, because this stuff has literally changed our lives and helped us get to here where we feel, well, I feel pretty good about myself most days, not all days, but most days. But I feel very happy and content, and I'd love to, make sure that the listeners feel loved and heard through our voices.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on here and sharing that love with me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.